Hey there, travelers. This is Langston Williams. We are getting ready for our next journey, episode 2, Journey to Zion. Once again, I'm Langston Williams. This here is Bria Guyton. Get ready, strap in. We're going on an adventure.
How y'all doing today? So on Journey to Zion, I just want to get a little bit into what we're focusing on here. It's mainly just using history, culture, and community as a means to define what home is within the African diaspora. We started off the last episode kind of sort of stating our discourse on the question of identifying as a Black person versus identifying as an African American person. And we did highlight identifying as Black as a means of not necessarily identifying with our African ancestry. But there's a key thing that I forgot to ask or bring up within the last discussion, and it was the identification of being American. And with that, Langston, I have a question for you.
Ooh.
Why? Because I remember you saying, like, you said Africa never did nothing for me, but you also never distinctly said you identified as a Black American. You said you identified as a Black man. And I completely forgot. In class, that was a lot of people's point. Not only did they necessarily felt no connection with being an African person, but they also felt no connection with being an American. And I was wondering if, not to give answers to questions, but if you had any additional or any disagreements to say with that.
You know, I actually think, now Black people might say that in a class, but I think that is not true. I think a lot more Black people identify with America than what they let on. Because if I were to go out right now and ask a Black guy on the street, where are you from? Oh man, I'm from Queens. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from the Bronx. I'm from St. Louis.
Yeah.
They are claiming somewhere in America. So like by claiming a state, claiming a city, you are definitely claiming America. If someone asked me where I'm from, oh man, I'm from the South. I'm from Mississippi. I'm from Louisiana. But by proxy, in a way, I am claiming America. Now, America raised me. America made me who I am. The person who you see before you is only here because of things that America has formed me into. And yes, that includes some of the dark history of America's past. But as a Black man in America, I feel like we can't escape the past of America. It is why we are the way we are, why our ancestors were the way they are, why we were raised the way we were raised. So am I happy with everything that has happened in American history? Absolutely not. But I'll claim America. You know, like I said, America's done more for me than Africa has. Like I ain't got a check in the mail from Africa one time in my life. Every now and then I get a lucky check from the IRS, which is basically Uncle Sam, in the form of income taxes. And you know what? That's America doing its due diligence for me. So America, you know, we cool from time to time. And whenever the Olympics roll around, let's not forget about the Olympics. The Olympics, that is the time where every Black man, every Black woman, we get real proud to be American. Like we turn up whenever the Olympics come around. Like we don't care if we're playing a team from Africa. We about to whoop these Africans when it comes to Olympics and comes to some sports. You best believe these American basketball teams,
the Jamaicans.
Yeah, we about to whoop everybody on that basketball court. Now, and in gymnastics and pretty much every sport. Like so yes, I actually, if someone asks me what my race is, I'm going to say I'm Black before I say African American. And I don't necessarily feel the need to say American, but if someone pries about like where I'm from or what country I'm from or what my nationality is, oh man, I'm American.
I feel that. And hell, we have done so much into building this country into what it is. Like we definitely cannot disregard that. So even though this country hasn't done enough for us as per se it is done for white people, it definitely does bear some reason to define yourself as American and not necessarily. So at the end of the day, you would say Black, not literally say Black American, but like understood. Like when you say black, you mean Black American.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just ask yourself this question. Could LeBron James exist in Africa? No. LeBron James is a product of America, the US of A.
Michael Jackson is a product of America.
Absolutely. If we were in Africa, we might not ever get Michael Jackson.
I see. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I might even venture to say that you say that America hasn't done as much for black people as it has for white people. I might actually disagree. I think America has given a lot of black people plenty of opportunity. Sure, we don't have the privilege that they have, but if we're just talking relative, if we compare relative to other places, I think if we compare what America will allow a black man to accomplish versus what Africa will allow a black man to accomplish, what a black person can do here versus what a black person can do there, I think America does more for black people than a lot of other countries do for black people. Honestly, I just don't think black people get the just due they're deserved in any place. Even in Africa, I feel like we holding ourselves back in Africa. Like, we created all these things here in America. We made all these modern advancements in technology here in America. Black people did that.
Yeah.
That was us. But why weren't black people doing that in Africa where they were free? Why did a traffic light have to be created here in America? Like, Africans didn't have traffic? They didn't have.
I think they have a lot of advancements within Africa. We just never had the freedom to explore what those advancements are. I do see this going into what that is, but I think that just speaks more about our knowledge as a collective on the history of Africa.
I don't know. Maybe so, but I do think that's a testament to what America has allowed black people to do. I think we have accomplished so much here in America that in theory we could have accomplished in other places, but in Africa, where, I mean, we're in theory the majority there, the only enslaved people in Africa might be enslaved by other black people, but still, you mean to tell me we were free, we had no bondage and all this going on in the motherland, and with all this freedom y'all had, y'all couldn't do the same things we were doing as black people over here in America? We had to create, or we had to start open heart surgery over here in America. That was an African-American invention. Like, why weren't they doing that over in Africa? Like, y'all had time, y'all had resources, but I feel like I said, although all of America's history might not be pleasant and some of it might be dark, those experiences that we had in America were necessary to create what we are now. If it weren't for 400 years of slavery, we wouldn't have had the desperation needed to be able to accomplish things. You know, diamonds are made under pressure, and I think the pressure that we were put under as black people in America caused us to have to do more, to excel a little bit more, to step up a little bit more, just so we could be seen as equals, just so we could be seen as people who are deserving of the freedoms that we eventually are starting to get here in America. But I don't
even want to say be seen as equals. We had to do that simply to survive.
There it is. I agree.
We had to withstand and overcome all of those obstacles just simply in order to survive within the United States of America.
But when you come across a hurdle, you're forced to jump. And when you jump, you reach a new height. In Africa, we didn't have those hurdles, so we never had to jump. We never had to reach higher. But here in America, we had hurdles. We had to jump. We had to reach higher. And every time we reached higher and we reached a new level, we reached a new height, we hit another hurdle and we had to jump again and we had to reach another new height. These are all things that I think only could happen in America. So I would argue that America has done more for black people than maybe some of these other countries have done for black people, maybe even more than Africa has done for black people. I mean, it's a controversial take. Yeah. If you present that same take to some other people, they probably would disagree. But I think
that's your understanding. I don't think it's necessarily something people have to be offended or triggered by. That's simply your understanding. And that doesn't necessarily speak to who you are as a person. That speaks to what you were exposed to growing up. And this also could tie into the whole theme of our last episode. It's not necessarily something for somebody to be offended about, it's something for somebody to take in and converse about. And once you get past, like I said, once you get past those triggers, then we can actually really start talking about things and really getting deep into it. So say what you say what you mean, and say it with your chest. Don't ever feel like somebody might rebuttal with some,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
So I'll
that's
say it
how you
again.
feel.
America has done a lot for Black people. I know it's not popular. Lots of people will just immediately think to slavery, but I will think, yes, there was slavery, but because of slavery, we are. Because of slavery, we did. Because of slavery, we became. Slavery. In no way am I saying this is like slavery was a good thing. Slavery was the most inhumane thing to ever happen in maybe the world's history, maybe after the Holocaust. Well, no, slavery was going on longer. So yes, it might be the most inhumane thing that has happened in the world's history, but it was an evil that caused us to become stronger. It put us through the fire, and we came out of the fire a little bit battle scarred, but at the same time a little bit hardened. Whenever you put some clay into the kiln, it comes out a new creation. It comes out like a much harder creation. It comes out more sturdy than it was before it went into the fire. So as Black people, I feel like we've been through it.
Yeah.
But we still are standing.
I feel like overall, the movie Sinners has a very good underlying theme that really goes into what you're saying in regards to overcoming obstacles, but still coming out on top. It's specifically in regards to Preacher Boy's journey within that movie. How do you feel about Sinners?
I saw it twice. I was a huge fan. I think it speaks to the Black person's plight very, very well. We try to find something better for ourselves only to get knocked down a step beyond or a step lower than where we were before or where we were in the beginning.
The thing that I find so beautiful about this movie, it came out almost a month ago and people are still talking about it.
I love that for us.
That when does that happen with any movie like talk about? People are still really the discourse amongst all communities that has come from this movie has been astounding, and I find it so beautiful.
Oh yeah. I mean, go look on Tom Cruise's page. Tom Cruise only has one post on his page that is not about a Tom Cruise movie. And that the one post that promotes any other movie that's not his own is promoting Sinners. And I think that says something.
That's so cool.
I think that says something. Tom Cruise ain't posting about no other movie other than Mission Impossible or some other movie that he's been a part, or Mission Impossible. What's the other one? Top Gun.
Oh yeah.
The only other movie post not related to any of his projects, Sinners.
We are going to leave in the show notes a couple of videos divulging in some discourse about Sinners. We will maybe not touch upon these videos within the episode, but please go check it out. It has just been from the idea of Remick and him being Irish as a necessary choice within the movie, the Asian community and its representation within the movie, the idea of African spirituality versus Christianity versus money and violence as means of resistance within the movie, like all these different things that have played a part into the making of Sinners, it being set in Clarksdale, the meaning of that. It's just been so beautiful. And we will touch on a couple things here. And with that, I would just like to start by asking, like, what were some themes within Sinners that you resonated with as a Black man in America?
Okay, so Smoke and Stack, they went up north trying to find a better life. And they discover, man, racism is not just a down south thing. Racism is everywhere. You can't escape it. We tried to do something better for ourselves, and we were still met with adversity. So what do? We hit a quick little lick down up there, and we try to come back down here, come back home where we think we're going to be accepted. And they get back home and they don't get the homecoming they are expecting.
Mhm.
They've done better for themselves. They've built their name a little bit bigger. They have a little bit more cachet, all that sort of stuff, but they're still met with racism. They're reminded that, okay, nowhere's really safe from what we've experienced up north and in the South, probably in the war. Racism is everywhere. And no matter how much time has passed, there is still challenges that are present for a Black man to be able to make it here in America. And it painted that picture so beautifully. And even after all that they went through throughout that night, they still had to deal with racism the next day with the Klan and still had some adversity. So it was like that you just can't win. It shows, like, it reminds me of Sisyphus. Sisyphus being like the Greek mythology guy who pushes the big rock up the hill, but then it falls down the other side of the hill, and it's like a existential crisis kind of thing going on, and he can't get that rock to just sit on the hill because every time he pushes it up, it just rolls down the other side. That is the Black man, and that is what we saw in that movie. They kept on pushing that rock up the hill, and it kept on rolling down the other side of the hill, and I felt for them.
So you mainly resonated with the twins within the movie in there, which is so, especially granted that you fought an entire war and you still come back. You fight an entire war for your country, for America, and you come back and you still got to deal with the bull.
You know, I think that was the thing about war at that time. Like, I think there ended up being such a great Black migration to other countries because we would leave America and go fight in wars, and we would discover that we would be treated better in other places. Honestly,
that happened within my family.
Almost happened within my family. So my mom never really knew her father. My grandfather died when my mom was 4 years old. He was in the military. He was stationed in Germany, and he died in a car accident in Germany before they really got a chance to
Is he
grow.
like a World War II veteran?
Yes, I believe so. And then so if she was 4, it would have been 1964.
No, 64. He's Vietnam War veteran then? I said World War II. That's like, he'll be great grandparents.
Well, it was 1964. He was in Germany.
64. My grandpa, he's a Vietnam War veteran. I don't forget the years that he served, but that sounds about that time.
Don't know what war it was. I just know the year. I know he was in Germany. He was military, died in a car accident. But a week before he died, or the week that he died, my entire mom's family was supposed to pack up and move to Germany because it was better over there than it was over here, which says a lot. Like, if he wouldn't have been in a car accident, I wouldn't even be here right now, probably. But it just speaks to, no matter what we do for this country, oh man, this kind of ties back into what I was talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. No matter what we did for this country, we still were given obstacles. We were still given hurdles. And even as a war hero or someone who is a veteran, it is a shame to know that you can fight to save these people, these clans people, these racists, these people who don't want you around, and little do they know, or maybe they do know and they just don't want to acknowledge it. I put my life on the line just so you could maintain your way of life. But you still don't see me as fit when you aren't willing to go over there and fight. But I was willing to go over there and fight. You weren't brave enough to pick up a gun and go overseas, but I was brave enough to pick up a gun and go overseas.
The respect will never happen because that requires them to see you as a person. And if they see you as a person, then they have to forfeit their own power and privilege that they have over that dichotomy. But see, that just simply can't happen because that's what they need in order to feel better about themselves.
I'm happy you said that last part because I was about to rebut and say, but we can everybody can win. It's not a race. Like, respect is not a race. It's a walk where everybody can win. It's like, it's an exhibition. Like, I can give you respect and you can give me respect. It's nobody is winning the game of, oh, I respected him more. Oh, he's a loser now, or I'm a loser now. Like, no, I mean, we get all respect. I give you some respect. You give me some respect. Come on, man. It's all love.
It could be that easy, but unfortunately it's not. And people People that that's a wheel that has been going and turning for so many years now, and to try to reinvent it, it's not going to happen that quickly, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I
Yeah, I definitely resonated with Smoke and Stack. I felt like I understood their plight. Man, I think it was Smoke only smiled once in the movie because I think he saw the world for what it was. Stack had an idealistic view of the world, but Smoke saw it for what it was and was like, this world ain't worth smiling at.
that's that's a damn good observation.
Only time he smiled
That's
was
a
when he got to see the
damn
baby at the
good
very end.
observation.
And he was
Yeah.
dying then. He only smiled before he was about to die. He ain't smiled through the time we saw him alive.
No. And he was smiling because he was about to meet his baby. That ain't even had nothing to do with about being in America. There was nothing, yeah, like you said, there was nothing, absolutely nothing going on in America that he found worthy of something to smile at. I feel like the choice of genre and the choice to introduce Remick as a vampire within this movie and let that be what ultimately serve as like the biggest test for Sam. I think it was for Sam specifically because that's what he said. Like he came there for him and for his music. And how do I want to say this? And overall, you see vampires as this thing that feeds off of humans, that engulfs your soul. And granted, I remember in the previous conversation you said Remick had no nefarious tendencies. He wasn't an evil person at his core. And granted that he is Irish and he spoke briefly about his own dealings with white supremacy within his home country, there still is this evil that lurks within being a vampire that Sammy had to face within the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it just in the sense that he's a vampire, legitimately was talking about wanting to steal this man's culture and his stories. That was probably the most nefarious thing that I felt Remick did. But I mean, it was an interesting choice. Usually when we see vampires in movies, I think of like Twilight or Underworld or even Blade. There's like this high class, upper society, upper echelon kind of hoity-toity kind of vampire portrayal where Remick just turned all those stereotypical tropes we see of vampires on their head. He was not some high class.
He got it out the mud.
Remick got it out the mud.
Remick got it out the mud.
He got it out the mud, and he was Irish. I do love that, with the exception of maybe Fruitvale Station. Ryan Coogler does a great job of trying to create villains that have a human side to them. They have some humanity.
That's what I loved about the movie. Everybody was gray. There was all gray characters. Nobody was wholly black or white. Nobody was wholly evil or wholly good.
Yeah, and like Remick at no point in time to me seemed like he had nefarious intention. I mean, okay, this is crazy segue, and it's going to sound super left field, but in Marvel Comics, there's a villain called Galactus.
Mm-hmm.
Galactus, giant cosmic being who devours planets. He's not nefarious. He's got to eat planets to live, though. So he often comes to Earth and gets into it with the Fantastic Four, and he's just like, y'all, I'm hungry. I'm starving. Y'all, Earth just looks delicious. It's nothing personal. I just want to eat the planet. Come on now. And every time, like, the Fantastic Four cannot stop Galactus. The guy's too powerful. They have to basically beat him more or less with the power of friendship by making him think that, okay, what if we find you something else to eat instead? Or what if we find some other solution so you just feel full and you don't have to mess with Earth? It always comes down to that. But I bring that up to say, in many ways, Galactus is like Remick as we saw him. Mm-hmm. He was just like, I just want a community. I want a family. I need some blood. I need some blood to live, but we're gonna be one big happy family afterwards. Like, I ain't
think that man was eating because he was hungry. He was eating simply because he wanted a community. It ain't had nothing to do with.
You think it was just for the community?
Because why did he choose who he chose? Why was he there? He could have been up biting anybody's neck anywhere if he was hungry.
I didn't see him turn down any necks though. He didn't turn anybody down.
But
Like he wasn't that selective.
Yeah, no, but everybody he picked. I mean, Lord, we really don't. There isn't so much character development within Remick that we understand that about him. But at the end of the day, he speaks about them taking his father's land, and it's like if he ended up there, he ended up there for a reason.
Remick basically, yeah. Well, I don't know how he ended up at the juke joint. I think probably just from hearing Sammy sing, but you know, I felt like Remick identified with the black plight.
Yeah.
He needed him some black people. He didn't really. I don't think he really wanted them white people that he met in the beginning. He just wanted black people. He was like, he didn't want to deal with them racists.
He only dealt with them because they looked like him, and he knew he'd be able to get over with them. That's the only reason why I feel like he dealt with them.
I just think it was.
He was running away from them. Yeah, he was running away. Them Native Americans was about to get him.
Which is so interesting that they chose to use Native Americans because, you know, they also...
Their ancestral knowledge as well.
Yeah, they also like tied in. Us, the Irish, and honestly, the movie could have just been all three of us ganging up on the white people in the Klan, you know, because when the Choctaw got there and looked inside the house, if they would have seen the little Klan hood, they should have been like, y'all can step outside, y'all catch this fade too. Like, that would have been a much better movie. Everybody catches the fade.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but I think the way the story played out, especially in the next morning scene, the way that all took that turn, that was so satisfying. That was probably one of the most satisfying things I'd ever seen within cinema.
Between that and the end of Django.
Oh yeah,
Django also had a very satisfying ending.
Yes.
Only difference is, I think the ending in Django was necessary because that ending was him trying to get back his wife. In Sinners, it kind of felt unnecessary. Very satisfying, but it felt unnecessary because by that point in time, everybody's dead. It's not like you're not trying to protect the juke joint from anybody at this point.
But I think that's exactly why he did it, because he had nothing to lose.
Touche.
He had nothing to lose. And granted, you know, white people could create some mob to further like terrorize a black community within that time period, but this is Stack, yes.
Smoke was the one that lived in the end.
Okay, Smoke lived, so this was Stack.
Stack kind of lived.
Oh,
Smoke was the one that did the shooting.
Okay, so Smoke had nothing to live for at the end of the day. The thing that I was able to resonate with the most is this overarching theme of doing what you are supposed to do versus doing what you are, like what you want to do for your spirit, and the freedom of choice and how that was often taken away from people that lived in that community during that time. Seeing that Sammy was brought up to be a preacher like his father, and he had this love for music, and he wasn't able to explore that because of what he was meant to do and how that is seen within Christianity. Blues is seen as this terrible thing. I think what was so great about it was I'm watching the movie, I'm seeing what goes on that night, especially given what we see at the very beginning of the movie, and I think to myself, like, yeah, he gonna stop playing music after all this stuff goes down. He's definitely gonna stop playing music. But at the end of it all, he still chose to play music, and he got to live a full life. And I think that is so beautiful.
I was curious on the messaging behind that, because clearly everybody was warning him time and time again. And he saw the consequences of going down that path. Very, very up close and personal, but he still chose to walk down it anyway.
And he was successful. At the end of the day, He was successful.
Yeah.
Granted, he had to leave. Stack and Smoke came back home, and he had to leave. And I don't think he ever went back home, really.
Probably not. He went to Chicago and finished his days there. But I can imagine after everything that happened, it was traumatic though. And I would not want to stay in Mississippi. Like, what? I just saw vampires down here. I just saw a lot of people get murdered in my face. I got attacked and slashed in the face by a vampire until he burst into flames in the sunlight. I'm out of here. Get me on the first train out. Like,
yes. But overall, like, there was an attack played upon his spirit within many ways, I feel, between having no options really into career-wise, what you want to be when you grow up in Mississippi. You're going to be a sharecropper, you're going to be an educator, or you're going to be a preacher. There isn't really much else outside of that. If you try to go any further than that, then you're risking your life in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Like, they don't want you to be a lawyer. I doubt they wanted you. There was no Black lawyers, Black doctors, like talk about during the 30s.
Nope.
They wasn't even letting you get education like that. And so there was an attack on his spirit in that regard. There was the metaphor being made as Remick being like an attack on his spirit, like literally being like a vampire and kind of like stealing his soul for his own personal gain, whatever that may be. And then there's also just simply your family around you not wanting you to do that. And I don't necessarily think that they wanted him to not practice blues simply because they didn't want him to be this great person. They just didn't really want him to do that because that was their way of protecting him. They loved that man. They loved him. But in order for him to really make it, they felt like they believed that you shouldn't be practicing that in order to make it within America at that time.
I just thought it was interesting that Smoke was also giving him that same kind of speech when, I mean, Sammy did make a point saying nobody knows who my dad is, but everybody knows who y'all are. So if I had to choose, I'm going to choose being known like y'all. And Smoke tries to warn him, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. I've been there, done that. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Still didn't listen.
Hey, I feel like that worked out in his favor. Like, you still see elements of that today where people will tell you, like, don't do this, don't do that, do this. Because if you become a doctor, if you become a lawyer, if you become an engineer, you will have better chances of making it out through life versus being an artist of some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Oh, without a doubt.
And so I just thought that really spoke to the underlying, like, I really felt like this movie had a very beautiful way of defining spiritual warfare and what we have to overcome within the movie.
It did. But as far as messaging about like who survives the spiritual warfare,
yeah,
the person who decides to go the worldly path in the end is the one who survived the spiritual warfare.
I think for this terms of story, like, it's a lot to it because I honestly genuinely don't feel like that's just for his story and that message for his story. Like, people have their own way of going about things, and that doesn't necessarily mean that if you do this, that, and the third, like, it's guaranteed going to work out for you. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try.
It felt like the message for Sammy throughout the movie was truly, I mean, explicitly stated by his father, but then restated by a number of other people. You dance with the devil, he's going to follow you home.
Mm-hmm.
Then Smoke tells him, you don't want to do this. It's going to follow you around forever. You need to get out.
Yeah.
Even Pearline gives him a warning. Boy, you're going to bite off more than you can chew. I mean, everybody was warning this man. And he was like, nope, I can't hear you. And did what he wanted to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
and it seemed to work out fine. And he continued to dance with the devil all the way till he was in his elder years. I mean, I don't know if a message on spirituality was intended, but if it was,
Mhm.
usually the message is you play with fire, you get burned. He was playing with fire until the last second of the
But
script.
everybody up in there was playing with
And
fire,
everybody
so
got burned.
except for him.
Everybody got burned
But
except
he
for him.
got burned a little too. That's deeply
Man,
traumatic. Like, because
he
at
was
the end of the
traumatized and
day,
still embraced it. Only thing he did was change the location, but he was like, man, this music.
but he said he was going to Chicago after all it is.
That boy ain't listen. He ain't listening not to one person.
No, I feel like it would have been a loss on his part if he would have gone through all of that and decided to be a preacher. I felt like that would have been like, nah. I could understand. Like I said, I fully expected he gonna hug his dad at the end of all of this and be like, yeah, Dad, you were right. Let me just stay here and be a preacher. That scared whatever y'all wanted to happen from that scared it out of me, and they got what they wanted, and he became a preacher. But like, I feel like those actions have to happen in order for us to get to where we are now. People have to decide, no matter what the fear or consequences may be, people have to decide what they want for themselves in order to create. He walked so that we could run. That's how I feel about it.
The moral of the story is ball out, my guy. You over there selling weed? Don't sell weed, sell cocaine. Ball out.
No.
JK, don't listen. That was a joke. That's a joke. But yeah, like it seemed to be that kind of seemed to be the messaging here. You dip in a little bit in the bad stuff. Go ahead, dip a little bit further in it.
But
it's gonna pay off in the end.
That's not okay. So like, for smoking stack, stealing from people, and then coming back home and trying to create, like, yeah, that speaks to what you're saying. But this man just simply wanted to play music. Like, blues is not bad.
My side piece.
But it's still, I mean, singing about that kind of stuff is not. I'm so sorry, Reggie. How much time do we have?
About 15 minutes.
Okay, cool. Singing about that kind of stuff, and that don't mean. Look, I'm pretty sure there are whole Christians that partake in trafficking. There are people that put on this good persona and steal and lie and do this, that, and the third, just because the man wanted to play the guitar and sing music that doesn't necessarily. And then why is there such a negative connotation when it comes to blues music and hip hop and so on and so forth outside of the subject matter of the songs? Because some songs are beautiful. Some songs don't even talk about that kind of stuff.
This is true. I think it is just not to make this a religious thing, but it's the church. If it's a secular message, it is inherently bad to those that are heavily religious, to the church, and secular in that it might not have been intended for the glory of God. So yes, there are songs like what comes to mind is the Ja Rule song "Living It Up," which is just an inherently good song about having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Still secular music. So to the church,
yeah,
it could be problematic, even if the subject matter is not inherently bad.
Yeah. Yeah, like he just wanted to do something that fed his spirit, that gave him purpose. And just because it isn't what was societally acceptable at that time doesn't mean that he should be barred from partaking in that. That's how I feel about it. And I feel that the fact that despite all of those obstacles, he still prevailed. I felt like that was a very beautiful touch to the movie.
I mean, I enjoyed it only because the white man didn't win. He
There
stuck it
was
to the man.
no white savior in that movie whatsoever.
Not at all.
And I thought that was also a really beautiful element as well. I thought that was so great. So, yeah.
I mean, I felt like Ryan Coogler had something to prove since people were trying to say that the Martin Freeman character was a white savior in Wakanda Forever, even though I think that's bogus. That's ridiculous.
You think so?
What? Absolutely.
I could see what you're saying. Because it had nothing to do with his whiteness at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That had nothing to do with him being white.
That was one random white man in Wakanda that they just had to have around.
He could have been black and done the same thing.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. What was the character in Django that taught Django how to shoot?
Christopher Waltz.
Yeah, that's his real name.
I don't
remember his character. That's white savior.
Doctor, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the white savior complex coming in play.
Yes,
like quite literally. Yeah.
I mean, Django though. I mean, not Django. Quentin Tarantino though. I mean,
but then again, yeah.
I don't. I expect white saviors from Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino throws the N-word with the hard R around in his movies. So like, although I'm highly entertained, I have some thoughts. Quentin Tarantino, come to the front of the congregation real quick, because I think you're a little too comfortable writing the N-word in your scripts. I get you're not saying you're writing it, but still, you're a little too comfortable throwing around the N-word in your scripts. I take some issue with it, maybe a little bit, but
yeah.
But since we're on the topic of Quentin Tarantino, I gotta say it. Did Sinners seem a little bit like Dusk Till Dawn to you?
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
I can't stand y'all hey, don't edit this out either. Don't edit this out.
Right now. I can't believe we just
that's the same thing that I said.
I can't believe we're doing this right now.
I love black people. I'm a ride for Sinners to the end. But some people were like, "Oh my gosh, this is the most unique, original idea in modern cinema." I was like, "Wait, this is Dusk Till Dawn with black people." I mean, it kind of is.
No,
but I still ride for Sinners though.
It's not.
Because
Jesus Christ.
Because Quentin Tarantino managed to do it without throwing around. I mean, well, did Ryan Coogler was the N-word in the movie Sinners at all?
I believe so. Yeah.
Was it?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised
for the sake of this
for the sake of yeah. Dusk Till Dawn probably was throwing around the N-word with no black people in it. Like it was probably all white people, and they just around there saying the N-word with the hard R. I like that's a Quentin Tarantino movie for you. But like I will say, Sinners and Dusk Till Dawn, low key are like almost the same. Okay, and I'll put it this way: Dusk Till Dawn, two brothers go up north to try to make it big. Things don't go well. They come back down south and trouble follows them back down south. And then the one difference, they kidnap a family and then they end up at this more or less strip club with a bunch of vampires. Only difference between Dusk Till Dawn and Sinners, in Dusk Till Dawn, the vampires were inside and the humans came in. And in Sinners, the vampires were outside and were trying to come in. But the whole showdown of vampires and regular people with two brothers that are very different, running away from trouble up north. Same concept. Sinners is better though. I do think Sinners is better. Like Dusk Till Dawn is a little bit campy. I think it's a lot more violent. They get the violence popping very, very quickly, but very similar movies. Let me also shout out Robert Rodriguez, because he was the director of it, and Quentin Tarantino wrote it and also starred in it.
Yes. And I only watched that movie for Selma Hayek, so
that's what
she needs to be mentioned as well up in this thing too.
And you can.
That's the only reason why I watched that movie. At its core, at its core, Dusk Till Dawn is about two brothers, but I feel like at its core, Sinner is about Preacher Boy.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, Preacher Boy is the protagonist of Sinners, but he was not marketed that way. But he
It
definitely
wasn't
is
marketed that way
the
because
protagonist.
it's his first movie and that's not going to sell. So you got to sell who's marketable.
Right.
That's all that was. At the end of the day, you have vampire movies, and Dusk Till Dawn is a vampire movie. Sinners is a vampire movie, but what took place in Sinners is very similar to what took place in Dusk Till Dawn, but the difference is what happened in Sinners was necessary for the plot. Is what happened in Dusk Till Dawn necessary for the plot?
In what way?
Going to Mexico, going to this bar in Mexico, of any of the places that they could have gone within Mexico, the direction that it went. And granted, I only seen Dusk Till Dawn once, and that was a long time ago. So I can't defend myself too. If I saw Dusk Till Dawn, I would be better equipped to defend myself in this conversation. But
there was no deep messaging in from Dusk Till Dawn. I can say that it was a very shallow popcorn entertainment movie with probably no layers at all.
But I'm sorry.
No, that's it. No layers.
What took place in Sinners, where it took place, how it took place, was all very telling of us as people. I feel like the choices that Ryan Coogler made within Sinners wasn't necessarily it feel like it's coincidental that it happened in the way that Dusk Till Dawn happened. You have this folklore element of it being at Clarksdale, which is the place of where the crossroads took place. We'll leave some articles in the show notes about what the crossroads is. And then you also have Clarksdale and Mississippi in general being the place where blues was created. And then, of course, where is blues going to be created within Mississippi? At the juke joint. And then you have vampires coming into play, not necessarily to simply be vampires, but to be this greater metaphor of somebody using you, not because of what you are, but for what you can provide. And granted, at the end of the day, we can all exist together and love each other, but we have to see you as a person first and not necessarily for what you can provide in order for this to happen. And that was why it had to take place in this element to where you don't necessarily see it for on its nose. You see it as a deeper meaning. And that was the key difference as to why, hell, we got some people going south in Mexico turning up. Oh snap, these is vampires. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna make it through the night? Yeah, that happened, but at the end of the day, it's a genre. That's not necessarily, that's Lion King and Hamlet.
You're right.
So,
I mean, I'll just say, if Ryan Coogler were to say that he was in no way inspired by Dusk Till Dawn,
Ryan Coogler can't say he was. Dusk Till Dawn was one of the movies that made it, but at the end of the day, it's how you use it and make it your own is what makes it beautiful. It's not necessarily the fact that you used it. If that was the same, if he did that, it just instead of making it 2 white people, 2 black people, and that was the crux of the movie, then that's lame. But that's not what it was.
Oh yeah, I mean, hey, I think sometimes these kind of things happen. Like American Pie was cool, but we needed a black version of it, so we got The Wood, and The Wood was an epic movie. You know, like I'm not mad at it at all.
But this isn't Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. Like, this isn't the black version of it all. I mean, granted, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella isn't really the black version of it all either, but that's not. It's literally its own movie that takes place within a genre that all encompasses that kind of thing. That's how I feel about it.
I mean, a little bit. I just remember. So I was actually supposed to work on Sinners. I had just gotten out here, and I got a call about being a cast assistant on the movie, and I was like, "Tell me some more details." And I was debating about it, but this was like right after the strike, and there was not enough work in New Orleans. So if I would have taken the job, I was afraid that I would not have another job to go to after that. So ultimately I turned it down. But when they ran down to me the plot of the movie, I was like,
Is this Dust Till Dawn?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. It was
is
like
this Dust
they
Till
gave me
Dawn?
so pretty much they were summarizing the movie in like 5 minutes to tell me what the movie was about, and I was like, so basically this is From Dusk Till Dawn. And they thought about it. They're like, actually, this is a lot like From Dusk Till Dawn. I'm like, yeah, this sounds like From Dusk Till Dawn. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't mad at it. I was still like, that sounds like a dope movie, and I would love to work on it.
Yeah.
Like, I ultimately, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I don't think, even if he did in his mind say, just if he watched like on a Saturday night, like From Dusk Till Dawn, he was like, dang, I bet I know a way to make this an even better movie. And then got to typing away. I wouldn't be mad at that. Like, Sinners was necessary for American cinema. No matter how great From Dusk Till Dawn was or wasn't, we needed a Sinners. The black culture, the black community needed a Sinners. Like, it could be the same movie, but we needed this.
I feel like 10 minutes. Thank you. 10 minutes or 10 seconds? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we needed this. We needed it very, very badly. So like, I'm not mad at it at all.
I feel like Sinners was a great movie, not just for Black people, because of seeing the discourse that came from the movie. I feel like Sinners was a great movie for people of color in general.
Oh yeah,
seeing the impact that it had overall, and yeah, I just wanted to take the time to talk about it today.
Yeah. Now Ryan Coogler he's the only black director to have 4 films all gross over 100 million. I mean, he's
That's beautiful.
Ryan Coogler is doing the thing, and I think he is going to go down at his current rate. He's going to go down as the greatest black director of all time. Hell, if he keeps it up at this rate, Steven Spielberg might have to watch out in about 30 years. We're a ways away from that being the case, because all respect to him, Steven Spielberg, greatest director of all time. He could have stopped making movies 30 years ago, and he would have still been the greatest director of all time. Hell, you could cut his career in half, and either half of Steven Spielberg's career could have still made him the greatest director of all time.
The thing with Steven Spielberg is where he came up in regards to cinema. I feel like cinema was so much stronger during his time versus what it is now, and what Ryan Coogler is having to deal with in regards to where cinema is at. I still feel like it's closer than what you might be seeing from what he's able to do with cinema.
I think, like I said, if he keeps on going at this rate, he's going to be in the conversation. It's not far-fetched. Like, Chris Nolan started well after Steven Spielberg, and I think Christopher Nolan is quickly approaching that conversation of maybe he's the GOAT. But I don't think that Chris Nolan's ever gonna topple Steven Spielberg. He just had 2 amazing run: Jurassic Park, E.T., Schindler's List, Jaws.
He made
Catch Me If You Can. What? Oh man. Hook. I mean.
And that's the thing. Like, that's what I mean. That's another part of coming up in regards to cinema, where a lot of the ideas are naturally going to be original ideas, because cinema is so young then. Whereas Ryan Coogler is facing cinema's been around for almost 100 or so years now.
Well, like I said, I still think you can make, like, people.
There's still original ideas to be made.
Ari Aster is being talked about like he's one of the greatest horror directors of all time.
Oh man,
and he's only like made 3 movies. Who's the other one? Robert Eggers also been in that same conversation. He's only made like 3 movies, but like it doesn't take much if the movies you make are all profound. And Ryan Coogler is rapidly.
That's what I want to get at with Sinners. Yes.
So I mean, I don't want to knock Spike Lee that much. I think Spike Lee is a little bit overrated, but I think Ryan Coogler like is maybe 2 movies away from like.
At the end of the day, Spike Lee walked so Ryan Coogler could run. That's how I feel about that. You don't have to be perfect. Nicki Minaj was not perfect, but
no, she is not.
She is not perfect.
No, she is not.
But she walked, so a lot of these female rappers today could run.
This is true.
So yeah, at the end of the day, you hold the door open for that time, for Spike Lee's time. I think he was good enough for what he dealt with during that time and what he was able to make and the vastness of his work for that time period. I think he's an amazing director.
We talking about Spike?
Yeah, we're talking about Spike.
Hmm.
I think he's great. But yeah, he walked so Ryan Coogler could run,
And Ryan Coogler is running.
He's gold.
Ryan Coogler is Usain Bolt running.
Yes. So, thank you guys so much for coming to another episode of Journey to Zion. Be sure to check out the show notes to go down that rabbit hole of discourse. And I hope you enjoyed. Y'all take care.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us again. We'll catch you on the next episode of Journey to Zion. Strap in your seatbelts. We're going on another adventure very, very soon.